Salt, 2 tablespoons. One and a half cups. Dissolve the salt in the water. Dry active yeast, 2 teaspoons. We're going to let that yeast sit for a little bit. See, it's starting to activate, it's starting to ferment a little bit there in the water. We'll let that sit while I measure out the flour. This is King Arthur bread flour. The right flour is oh so important. I'm measuring out about 4 cups. I'm going to add it to the water in little bits, and I'm going to add it until I've added enough. I don't do precise weight measurements. Be like, why doesn't he do precise weight measurements? Well, this is how I do it. You do it the way you like. Stale crab. Ready to start adding the flour. Add it a little bit at a time. Get it nice and mixed up, and then go for your next. We're going to add it about, say, half a cup at a time. And every time you add it, it starts to get a little thicker, and it starts to get a little stickier. Use the stickiness to help clean it off the sides. We just keep going. I'm basically using my 2 fingers here, kind of like a fork. Almost like if you think about your dough hook in a stand mixer, I'm trying to almost make that shape with my fingers. Say, why doesn't he get a stand mixer? Well, maybe I like getting my hands dirty. All right, at some point here, I'm going to have it getting close to turning into a ball. So I'm going to start to fold it into itself, but still trying to pull the stuff off the sides. Keep the sides of the bowl clean. If you start to get some little flaky pieces of the dough, that's okay. Just try to work it in. Work it into the dough. It'll come together. A little more flour. Really now I'm going to really start turning it back into itself. So this is kind of serving 2 purposes. I'm making the dough ball, but I'm also getting some kneading in there. So that'll save me a little time once I turn it out of the bowl here. All right, now I got some messy fingers right here. So I'm going to try to clean those off, get that back into the dough ball. Nothing going to waste here. Now this is step 1 of the process. The next steps, we will be letting this dough rise. It is nighttime here. This is going to be making pizza for dinner tomorrow night. So this is going to rise overnight. I'll probably let it rise throughout most of the day tomorrow, and then about 2 hours or so before I'm ready to start cooking pizzas, we'll go back to this and I will make it into 4 dough balls that will make about 4 12-inch pieces of pizza. Now let's see, is there anything I forgot to mention that I want to mention before this first half of the video is over? So this is the next process. Now that I've got it out here, I'm kneading the dough into the flour I put on the table. I made sure this was a clean table before I started. Cleaned it off nice and good. And we are just kind of turning the dough back into itself. Trying to soak up all of this flour on the table. Now, today's dough actually didn't use as much flour as normal, so I don't know if that's the humidity, I don't know if that's the flour, but every time it's a little bit different. That's why I say I don't really measure precisely the flour and mix it up. I like to add the flour till I've added enough. How do you know? Well, you do this enough times and you'll know when enough is enough. And I think there's a little bit of flexibility there. You don't have to be perfect. Every time it's going to be a little bit different. That's what makes it fun. So I'm getting pretty close here. So now it's kind of turning back into itself. I don't want to add too much more flour because I want it to be able to see how I've got it kind of stuck and it's its own ball now. If I added too much flour now, I couldn't get that to stick together. I'd have to knead it for a lot longer, and then at some point you can knead it too much. So I think I'm kind of happy with where I am here with this dough ball. Kind of push it down a little bit. It bounces back pretty quickly. So I think we're about where we need to be for this. So this is going to go back into a bowl. I'm going to cover it with a wet towel, and it's going to sit for about 16 hours. So that's step one. We'll come back tomorrow. We'll finish it up making the dough balls, and then we will be enjoying some delicious hot pizza. As promised, we are back. It is the next day. It is about 20 hours later. And here we go. The dough has risen. How dough you do. Okay, so time to make dough balls. We are about 2.5 hours or so from cooking these pizzas. And that is about the right time. That's about how much time I need for making these dough balls. There it goes. Came out a little misshapen, but I can rearrange that a little bit here. And so I'm going to try to turn this into 4 equally sized dough balls. I have to say this one will be a little bit of a challenge to get them the same size because it came out so funny, but that happens. That's okay. So I'm going to cut here, add a little extra flour to it, just so it's not so sticky. Alright, we'll see how that works. It's okay if they're a little bit different. That's no big deal. You'll have some bigger pizzas and some littler pizzas. So I'm just folding it down underneath into itself. And I'm going around and around and around until I like what I see. So that one kind of broke a little bit. So it just means I'm going to do it for just a little bit longer to make sure that I get a nice smooth ball of dough in the end. And then once I like what I've got, looks pretty closed up there on the bottom, put it onto my pan here. And again, those are going to sit for about 2 to 3 hours, and the dough will relax, it will rise a little bit again, and then it'll be ready to form into a pizza. So one of the things about making the dough balls is if you want a round pizza, you need a nice round dough ball. If your dough balls are a bit of a mess, then your pizza might be hard to make round. So that's why this is important. Now if you let it go too long, they're going to expand too much, relax too much, then they'll be really tough to work with. You do it not enough time, then they don't relax enough, and then they're harder to stretch. They might tear a little bit. So really that couple of hours, room temperature, is what I'm looking for here. So it's about just before 4 o'clock. I'm probably going to start cooking around 6:30 or so. So that's what we got. Good to go? Good to go. We'll see you soon. We got our Galbani whole milk, low moisture, mozzarella cheese. We're back, as promised. It's time to cook. We got our Gosney rock box, hot as can be. I'm gonna get one last sip before it's go time. And now, this dough that's been working on for the last 24 hours, here we are. To start, sprinkle a little bit of the flour on there. It's the flour semolina mixture. Get it on there and then into the bowl. Shake it up a little bit. Shake it up. Get that flour and semolina on there before we transfer it to the table. I'm going to push it out just a little bit, trying to leave a crust on the edge. That crust is going to rise nice. Flip it over, kind of do the same thing, going around the edges. Push it down in the middle, start to get it to spread out. So that extra time we gave it, let it relax a little bit, so it is nice and ready to stretch. It's going to stretch real nice. It won't tear. I'm not scared. Don't be afraid. Slapping it back and forth, and the movement is kind of, if I slow it down, kind of like that. Make sure I get enough flour and semolina on the table so that when I go to transfer it to the peel, it doesn't stick. We're going to sauce it up first. Take it out close to the edge. Don't overdo the sauce. Give them what they want, but not too much. Then we go for the cheese. Cheese it up. Cheese it up. Bring the cheese back in. A little cheese on the crust won't hurt nobody. It'll be okay. Now we're going to go for the olives. Spread those out. And the mushrooms. Now at the end of this, after it comes out, I'm going to top it with some baby arugula. And that is crowd pleaser. That's what we call that. Alright, so we got that pizza ready to go. Before I set it, I'm going to turn down my oven a little bit. I'm going to turn it down, had it nice and hot. Now I'm going to turn it down for the actual cooking. I want to make sure that the stone gets hot. Alright. Pie on there, looks good. Give it a little shake, get some of the excess flour off. But don't want to get the toppings too out of whack. And into the oven it goes. Now we're going to let that go about 20 seconds before we do the first turn. Get my sip. Don't want it to burn, but want it to cook a little bit before I turn that. Get a little bit of the bottom crust done before we start to turn. It's looking ready. I gotta loosen it in the stone, and then we'll do just a little quarter turn. I'll keep doing that quarter turn till I get all the way around. We'll see where we're at. Maybe it's done then. Maybe I'll do a little more. Catch some areas that haven't been cooked all the way. You can see we're getting some bubbly on the end. That crust is really rising nice around the edges. Check out that undercarriage. We're getting a nice char on the bottom. Oh, this is beautiful. This is just what we want to see. All right, now we're on round 2 now. We're going around for a second time, second trip around the sun. So you can see we're trying not to burn the edge too much, but the crowd I deal with likes a lot of char. So I don't mind that char. They don't mind it. They love it. They ask for it. They want it. If I don't give it to them, they get upset. But you cook it the way you like. All right, we're getting close here. Alrighty. We have ourselves the first pizza pie. Go ahead and we're gonna... Oh, you hear that? Get in close, get in close. Listen to this. One more. Ho ho ho. Hear that crunch, hear that crisp. That is something. All right, we're gonna pull apart a piece right here. Look at that. It's an airy, nice crust there. Here we go. Let's check it out. Ooh. Mmm. That's how you do it, dude. That first pizza was so good. We're gonna do another one. Why not, right? We got the dough, we got the time. Ain't nothing. Scoop this off of there, into the bowl. Toss it back and forth. Get it nice and covered. And we bring it back to the table. I'm gonna go a little faster this time. This one's gonna be a little bit quicker. Let's see this beautiful crust we got now. Oh yeah. Do a traditional pepperoni pie. Cheese, please. Everybody loves cheese. Again, these things like this, the cheese, you don't want to do too much. Because too much toppings, the crust might get a little soggy. It gets a little bit harder to do all the things you need to do with it, like scoop it off of the table. So we don't want to overdo anything. But you also don't want to do too little. More pieces of pepperoni. The pepperoni really shrinks down, so don't worry about it overlapping a little bit. Pepperoni cooks down quite a bit. Oh yeah, there we go. Again, I'm gonna turn it down. I turned it back up between pizzas to get my stone hot again. Now we're back in the oven. Pizza number 2. But we'll keep it in there long enough to get it cooked enough there on the bottom. Don't forget, Neapolitan pizza, like what we're doing here, Neapolitan pizza does not have that same New York pizza undercarriage, we'll call it. Quoting Dave Portnoy. But I think he'd give this better than a 6.8. I know his Neapolitan pizza starts at a 6.8. I'm thinking I'd score in the 7s. Alright, we're in round 2 of turning the pizza. We're getting some pretty good char on the edge. Trying not to overdo it. Really going only about 3 seconds per turn. I got maybe 1 or 2 turns left. Oh yeah, look at that. Look at that. Have you ever in your life seen anything so pretty? It's so pretty. Well, I forgot the arugula on the last pizza. I'm sure that somebody is going to comment on that. I said arugula and then I didn't give it to you. So here we go. Let's sprinkle that baby arugula on there. A little bit more there, all right. That is what I'm talking about. Transfer this to a pizza plate. And now what? Now what? We're gonna try it. Of course we're gonna try it. Let's take this piece right here. Ooh, look at that cheese. Look at that cheese. All right. It's hot. I'm going to burn my face. So good. I could eat this whole pizza. But I got to share it.